Hello, I'd like to talk to you today about tyres. Now, tyres are one of the most fascinating things actually you have on a car. The way they actually contact the road and give you grip and all that stability that you need to transfer power and corner and handling and all those wonderful things comes from an amazing thing that happens between the rubber of the tread compound and the road surface. It's really quite weird. It actually bonds into the road surface as you drive along. There's a lot going on in there, and in fact manufacturers use about 200 different chemicals inside that tyre to actually make them work properly. So they're amazing pieces of technology, often neglected. Now, neglecting your tyres is a really bad idea, and the reason is it's the only thing that contacts your car to the ground. So it doesn't matter what you do in terms of engine tuning or suspension tuning or brakes. If the tyres can't transmit that force, it's pointless. They are the most important thing on your car. Often neglected, which is a shame. So, what should you look out for? Well, first of all, tread wear. We all know about that. It shouldn't get below 1.6 millimetres from a legal point of view. But even before it gets that low, it will start losing its performance. So you should really think about replacing your tyres before they get right down to the tread wear indicators. The tread wear indicators are these little bars that go across the tyre, and when the tyre tread's flush with those, you know it's gone too far. Now, the tread works by actually finding its way down to grip. It actually moves around on the road surface. The exact way it works is really quite complex. If the tread can't move that well, it won't actually grip the road, particularly on rougher road surfaces, your A and your B roads, that sort of stuff. On a flat racetrack, it's a different story, and that's quite an important thing. You don't want to compare race tyres to road tyres. They behave in very different ways. So, tread depth is very important. But so is the age of your tyres. It's rubber, it perishes with age, it gets harder. And as it gets harder, it can't grip into the road so easily, and you lose that traction, which is very, very important. Now, if you just drive gently all the time, you might not even notice that you're losing that grip. But if there's suddenly an emergency, and you have to do an emergency stop, that's when you'll notice the problem. And then it'll be too late. So have a look at the date code on your tyre. Every tyre has got a date code stamped into the side of it, which looks kind of like this sort of a thing. It's a 4-digit code. The first 2 digits are the week number of the year it was made, and the second 2 digits are the year it's made. So this was the 24th week of 2020 as an example. This date code came in the year 2000. Before that, in the 90s, there was a 3-digit code, which was the week number and what year in the 1990s the tyre was made. If you have a 3-digit tyre code, your tyre is well past its sell-by date. Get rid of it. If it doesn't have a date code, oh my God, don't drive it on the road. Now, some people who love their classic cars will really like the idea of using the original tyres that car was built with back in the 60s or the 70s or whatever. Well, that's great if you trailer it to a show and just have it in a show or it's in a museum. That's absolutely fine. The problem is when you use it on the road, because old rubber gets harder, it becomes more brittle, and that can lead to a phenomenon known as a blowout. Now, you might have heard of punctures and blowouts and think they're interchangeable, but they're very different things. On an ordinary tyre, if you get a puncture, what happens is that the pressure inside the tyre starts to reduce. Then the tyre starts to deform more as you go down the road. So it'll start to squash down, and that means as it's going along, the tyre tread's going from round to flat to round to flat, and it's putting a huge amount of heat into that tyre. So when you drive a car with the tyres at too low a pressure, it will overheat and start breaking up. You'll notice a loss of traction as the pressure starts to reduce. The more the pressure reduces, the less traction you get. So generally you get a warning about it. You'll feel the car not working quite right, you realise something's wrong, you can pull to the side of the road and deal with it, change your tyre. With a blowout, it's much more dramatic. With a blowout, the tyre gets hotter and hotter, and as I say, old tyres where it's got really hard rubber can suffer from this. It gets hotter and hotter and hotter until something fails catastrophically. And if this happens on a motorway, it'll be happening at high speed, and all of a sudden the structure of the tyre gives out. So you go from having pressure in your tyre to having nothing. And this means you have no warning. It just suddenly goes bang and you've got nothing on that side. And that usually leads to the car going out of control, which is a bad thing. So blowouts you need to avoid. So very old tyres can lead to blowouts, so you need to avoid that. How old is an old tyre? Well, if we're doing performance work with a car, we generally like to replace them after about 3 years. Now, it might seem a bit excessive. 6 years is a good innings for a tyre. Anything more than 6 years and it's going to start getting worse. It won't suddenly be awful, it will just get worse as time goes on. 10 years is very old for a tyre. At 10 years we're going to expect to see cracks forming in the tread itself. So when you actually look into the area around the tread blocks, you'll start to see these cracks forming as the rubber gets harder and harder, got less traction, less grip, and it starts to break up. More than 10 years old, really, that's quite a problem. Unless the tyres have been stored in the dark a lot. The things that make the tyre perish is just oxygen in the air and also ultraviolet light from sunlight. So if you cover your tyres up, you're going to reduce its ageing to a certain amount, but you'll still get some ageing. So it also means you've got to look out for, if you buy new tyres, if they're new old stock that's been on the shelf for a long time, they will have lost some of their life just by sitting on the shelf. So it's something to be aware of. There's loads more to tyres than that. They're absolutely fascinating things. When you actually find out exactly how they work, they're just, it's mind-boggling. Maybe I'll do another video about that. But this is just a quick introduction to talk about the basics of tyres. We run basic maintenance courses for car enthusiasts, so if you'd like to know more about how to look after your car and the very basics about what's important on your car and what to look for, then come and have a look at us. We've got a new website, motorskills.co.uk, and you can email us at skills@rhl.co.uk and have a look at some of our basic training courses where we can show you a lot more about cars and get you up to speed. Thank you for watching.